Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to today's bonus upload. Before we jump into this very interesting bonus, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And yes, folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's bonus, shall we? Its first encounter. In December of 2012, I was living in a halfway house on the west side of Shreveport, Louisiana. It was a 5-bedroom house. I had several roommates. One night, one of my roommates came in from outside, visibly shaken, and confided in me that there was something in the woods that was not human. I asked him what he meant, and he said he had been outside smoking a cigarette using his phone, which was brand new, by the way, the latest Samsung Galaxy at the time, bought in earlier the same day, when his phone had randomly popped up a strange text prediction-style string of words and characters right before his phone powered itself off. He said that he had read something along the lines of, "I am a very different, beautiful creature from," followed by a string of characters he couldn't make sense of. He said it was then that he had saw something strange in the woods, got scared, and came inside. To be honest, I thought it was a prank, and I didn't even go outside that night to look. I just said something like, "Okay, good. You made it inside, you're safe, get some sleep. We've got work in the morning." And we did. The next morning, he complained that his phone wouldn't turn on anymore, and that he'd have to go to the store and get it replaced. The following weekend, I was in my bedroom at night when I observed out the window what I thought at first was 2 or 3 people with flashlights in the woods behind the house. I went through the living room, asked the 5 or so roommates watching television if any of them were expecting company, because someone was coming up the path. We were not allowed company, so we would have our visitors park at the next place over and walk the path, which was prominent even at night, and going through about 40 yards of pine thicket. Everyone had said they weren't, so I went and investigated. When I got outside, I was able to see more lights in the woods. Way off the path, I realized that even these lights were moving, as if they were walking back and forth. I didn't hear any sounds. I observed the lights from a distance at first and gradually moved closer. The way they were moving reminded me of people looking for something dropped in the woods, except the number of them and their individual locations were changing almost constantly. I saw between 1 and 9 of them repeatedly and without. The form of them was vaguely humanoid in shape, each probably about 6 feet tall, and seemed to be made of rays of light. They reminded me of streaks of light people normally see when looking towards a light at night. I observed them for like 30 minutes and made several attempts to walk and investigate more closely, but each time, when I'd get to the edge of the yard, where the woods were, they would move toward me, and I experienced feelings of fear and panic that made me retreat back to the yard near the house. After a while, they seemed to stop reappearing after their individual disappearances until they were all gone. Later, my roommate told me that what I had seen was the same thing he had seen a week before, which had somehow interacted with his telephone and caused it to shut down. Alright guys, tonight's first video is pretty terrifying, and It's actually very compelling evidence that Sasquatch does exist. I normally do not say a percentage of how I feel, but I will 100% stand behind this video. And to me, it looks 100% legit, guys. This may be the most legit video of a Sasquatch I have ever seen. Check it out.
That.
All right, guys, like I said, that is very compelling footage. And to me, it looks 100% legit. I truly believe that is some very remarkable video evidence of Sasquatch's existence. On to today's second encounter. In May of 2020, my parents were on their annual trip to Florida with my 3 brothers for the week. My mom asked me if I would go by their house and feed their family dogs or stay and house sit. Being the daughter that I am, I told my mom that I would just stay at the house and save on gas. Throughout the week, at night, I would bring the 2 dogs inside and feel safer since my parents live on a somewhat back road. Keep in mind, my parents' house is surrounded by trees, and there is a thick tree line separating their house from the 2 neighbors. Well, one night, while I was at the house alone, I had called my best friend to come over and stay the night. We were going to do what 20-something-year-old females do while alone: play video games, watch movies, TikToks, and drink a little. While she and I were in the kitchen at around 3 or 4 in the morning, making homemade funnel cakes like fat asses we were, the dogs kept moving around and staring at the glass kitchen door that led off to the back porch. I asked my friend to let them out so they could just chill, and we could have enough leg room while we were cooking. While we were eating our funnel cakes, we came across a TikTok about making homemade temporary tattoos with a printed picture and perfume. Now keep in mind, my parents have about 4 acres of land, so there is a family house, my father's 2-door garage workshop, and a large barn. Those 2 buildings are further out near the tree line. So she and I walked down to the workshop to go out to my parents' work office. I punch in the code to the garage door and we go inside straight to the computer and print out each other a picture of Kylo Ren to try and make a temporary tattoo for each other. Before I go any further, a little side note: my parents have security cameras all around their property, and inside the office is a television above the desk showing all of the live footage from the cameras. So while I was cutting out the tattoo for my friend, she said, "What is that?" I stopped cutting and looked up at the cameras. At first I didn't see anything except for a small figure in front of the barn. It looked like it was sniffing at the garage door. I shrugged it off and told her it was probably one of the many stray dogs that roamed the area. She nudged my arm quickly after I said that and pointed to the screen again, wanting to prove to her it was just a stray dog. I stood up and looked closer at the screen, and when I did, I saw the figure, but it didn't look like a stray dog. The creature was hunched over on all fours. Its arms were super thin and long, but pointing outwards from its chest. Kind of like how you'd imagine that girl from The Exorcist to be when she crawled off on all fours. The thing had no fur, and its skin looked tight on its body. And when I told you that I went to open the door to look at it, my friend stopped me right when I grabbed the lock on the door. Looking back at the screen at this creature, it looked like it was scratching at the door of the barn. I immediately said, "WTF is that?" And the creature turned its head straight at the camera, like it was a scene from The Office. When its head turned, I couldn't make out any clear facial features, but it looked like it had a human head with two big glowing eyes. We both screamed and it bolted. I mean, it bolted off screen. Clearly freaked out, we hugged each other like that was going to protect us. Then something smashed against the garage door, not once but twice. Like, you know what it sounds like if someone is to smack a garage door from the outside with their hand. Yeah, just like that. I called my grandmother and told her we thought we saw something, and to stay on the phone with us until we ran to the house. Once we got into the house, we brought the dogs in, locked every single door, and took some shots of Crown Royal until we fell asleep. We live in Georgia, and to this day I still don't know what we saw that night. Guys, tonight's second video is going to be a video of what I like to call a look behind. Now, I had talked about these prior when Steph had been on the show, and he was talking about what we call crawlers. But the look behind is something different. It's older. Back like the 1800s, people used this term, and alls it was some sort of creature you really couldn't make out, but it would peer from behind a tree. And that's exactly what this thing does. It peers from behind a tree. Check it out. Yeah, I definitely would not be getting out of my vehicle to go check that out. Um, if you look them up, look up look behinds. It's just an old, you know, kind of cryptid before people were talking about crawlers, dogmen, Bigfoot. This was just like when Bigfoot was still the wild man. Just a really old term for a cryptid. It might even be a crawler, but this thing's black, and that's how usually these look behinds were. They were kind of furry and dark colored. So anyway, on to tonight's third encounter. I have an experience that happened to me and my friends. We were on a Boy Scout camping shooting trip. There were 20 to 30 of us. We were in a little cabin with windows on the front and back, and a front and back door. There were wooden tables all around the area. The adult cabin, with a bathroom, was about, I don't know, an eighth of a mile down a gravel road in the dark. There was obviously a buddy system because, hey, it's Boy Scouts. So it's around midnight, and everyone's telling scary stories, like normal camping trips. Well, I got to go to the bathroom, and I asked my friend to come along. He said, sure. We got out our knives. It made us feel safer. Well, we went to the bathroom and began our walk back. This is where it gets creepy. I felt an instinctual, not sure if that's the right word, fear. I looked at my friend and he had the same look as I did. We began to walk a little faster and unfolded our pocket knives. I then turn around and I see it. It looked similar to a cat, but it was 6 feet tall, walking on its hind legs, kind of hunched over. I freaked out and started running. My friend sees it as well, and we sprint back to the cabin. It began making this moaning, howling noise. It was somewhere between the two, and followed us slowly. We pound on the door, and the guys let us in. We told them what we saw. They actually believed us. So we lock the front door and look at the back door. There's no lock. We push the table against it, and had a kid there with his knife for safety. We drew the blinds on all the windows that had them. One didn't. And we sat there with all the lights on. Then we see the eyes outside of the window without the blinds. We're all crapping ourselves. And this thing slowly walked to the back door. We heard it bumping up against it, maybe trying to open it, we think. It then left, but we still thought we were going to die. No one slept. The adults came to wake us up. We told them. They laughed at us and said we were making it up. We know what happened, even if they didn't believe us. It was in northern Virginia, about 60 miles east of Washington, D.C. It was after 2012. I really don't remember the exact year. Alright guys, today's third video is going to be, well, to me it is a perfect example of a feral person. It's really looking ragged, and how its actions are definitely not normal. It's also very pale if you look at this thing. And it's nothing's right about this video. So check it out.
How you doing? Oh, just some cruisers, man. That's crazy shit. This guy's crawling at me like it's goddamn. What's up, dude?
So you can hear the guy trying to communicate with this feral person or whatever it is. It starts to communicate back, and they take this video. You can see the guys eventually take off, which definitely is smart, not hanging around, because it starts crawling up those trees, that little embankment there, which, I mean, if you look at the embankment, it doesn't look like that's a very easy thing to traverse, but this thing does it pretty quickly. So on to tonight's fourth experience. I live in Utah, and a few months ago I saw a couple strange creatures in a span of a few weeks or month tops. I live in some foothills just below the mountain. Just to get an idea, I don't live in a developed city, and we are, for the most part, surrounded by wilderness. I see deer just about every day. So, like I said, I had seen a couple of strange creatures. At this time, I had only seen one. Since that time, I've been very observant. It was probably 8:30 p.m., maybe 15 minutes until the sun went down. I was scanning all the rocks, trees, and brush with my binoculars. I focused over a fence of a house, and that's when I saw this thing. There's a series of trees behind this fence which almost gives the appearance of a forest. I stared through my binoculars and saw what I can only describe as an almost black-looking bear. When I first looked at it, I could only see half of its face and one side of its shoulders. I couldn't make out exactly what I was looking at, so I just continued to stare at it through the binoculars. After staring for about a minute, I noticed it started to come forward. The reason I say it came forward is because it didn't appear as if it was walking. Its upper body didn't make the movements that a walking human would make. It came forward, and at this point I could see its entire face and large muscular shoulders on each side of its body. It was staring directly at me, and it came forward and I got a better look at it. Its chest and below I couldn't see, because of the fence that was covering that area. Although I could see the face, I couldn't make out exactly what I was looking at. From the eyes down, it looked so strange. I saw what was like a circular, lighter colored shape for a mouth and a smaller black dot for a nose. And that's about when it turned its head. When it turned its head, I realized that it did resemble the head of a bear. The only difference between this thing's head and a black bear's head is that it had a stubby or short snout. I also noticed that it had ears, rather large ears, but looked like bear ears. If I had to guess its height, I would say 7 feet tall and very wide, maybe 2 to 3 feet wide, basically how most people describe a Sasquatch. People would probably say it was a bear, but like I somewhat stated, it had the posture of a human, with human-like but on steroid shoulders. It stared directly at me as I stared at it. I wasn't exactly scared because it was light out and I knew there was no way this thing would hop the fence and reveal itself to the rest of the homes. Soon after getting a good look, I went inside feeling very uneasy. I don't quite think this was flesh and blood because I don't see how it could have gotten into someone's backyard, especially during the daytime. Also, when it came forward to be in front of that tree that it was hiding half behind, it didn't make the walking movements in its upper body, at least not noticeable. So to me, what he basically described would be a werewolf. And now I've seen people in the comment sections, hey, what's the difference between a werewolf and a dogman? Well, dogman have the hocked legs, a longer snout, and a tail. They are rather what we see on Underworld. And a werewolf is much larger. It looks almost like a Sasquatch, except it has a shorter snout than a dogman, no tail, and very, very strong. So to me, this guy saw a werewolf. Now on to today's fourth and final video. This kid is walking through the woods. You can hear this horrible, horrible shrieking. He comes to it, sees it, and actually gets a very good video clip of this. And it is how a crawler is described. And it's definitely a terrifying video. The person, whoever took the video, has got a testicular fortitude of Andre the Giant, I guess. You know, I would not be walking like that close to it. It's pretty nuts. Anyway, here's that video. Definitely a terrifying creature to run into in the middle of the woods at night. All right, folks, I hope that you all enjoyed this bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that keeps this channel growing and going. And honestly, what makes people want to share their experiences, ideas, and theories, because they know there is not judgment or ridicule, that they will be treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real, they are out there, and they are dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers, and God bless.